This episode of From Angel to Exit is brought to you by Dash. Dash offers remote knowledge workers to streamline workflows for U.S. businesses. Services include CRM management, email organization, social media content, bookkeeping, research, lead generation, and more. Dash professionals save clients time by managing routine tasks, allowing businesses to focus on growth and other high-value activities. For more information, visit hirewithdash.com. Are you serious about planning a successful business exit? From Angel to Exit is your go-to resource. Subscribe to our newsletter at eckfeldt.com/podcast for even more valuable insights. And to get personalized guidance, take our free exit readiness assessment. It's just 24 questions, and it will give you a clear picture of your exit readiness. Find the assessment at eckfeldt.com/exit. Submit your results, and we'll schedule a free follow-up call to discuss your specific situation and the best way to maximize your valuation and ensure a successful transaction. Now, back to the episode. Welcome, everyone. This is From Angel to Exit. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host. Our guest today, Walter Paulson. He is exit entrepreneur. He's had a couple of different experiences. We're going to hear about them. I'm excited for this. Walter has had a couple of different, not only experiences, but has then worked with a lot of companies and helping them figure out their exit strategy and has a lot of insights. I always love speaking with people that have been on both sides of the equation a little bit. So excited for this. And with that, Walter, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks, Bruce. Delighted to be here.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you. So before we kind of dig into kind of all the learnings and the takeaways, give us a little background. Like how did you get into business, into startups? What was your kind of professional background? Give us a little backstory.
Sure. Well, I've spent the last 25 years starting, building, selling companies in Silicon Valley. The last couple of years, I've been a Vistage Chair CEO coach, and now certified outgrow advisor. We can talk about that a little bit. And then before that, I actually started my career in media. I financed movies for 20th Century Fox, financed Speed, Mrs. Doubtfire, Home Alone, Braveheart, and then ran home entertainment for Asia Pacific. So I spent a lot of time in Japan and Korea and Silicon Valley, or Japan and Korea, and Hong Kong, Singapore, Sydney, and then moved up to Silicon Valley in the late 90s when .com was happening. Did a corporate venture job for a couple of years, and then worked at startups and growth companies in various incarnations, from raw bootstrap to seed funding to incubated at a big company, and it's been a great ride.
Yeah. And what did you transfer from the media, or what was the big change from the media background, more kind of corporate stuff, into more of the earlier stage and growth? Was that personal preference? Was that situational? And what did you transfer in terms of experience and learning?
So there were a couple of things. First, I'd been at Fox in LA for about 6 years, worked on the studio, worked upstairs from Barry Diller. It was super fun and sexy. But I was at a point where if I did it a couple more years, I was going to become kind of a studio lifer, which is not a bad thing, but you're always swimming with sharks, and it's always going to be LA or New York. Yeah. And I was like, didn't know if I wanted that. I mean, and I'm not one who hates on LA, but I wasn't sure I wanted to live there forever. And then there was some interesting stuff going on in tech and multimedia and Netscape. And I'd done a lot of work with Japan and NEC, $40 billion, Japanese electronics conglomerate, was starting a corporate venture arm in Silicon Valley, and they wanted somebody with media experience.
Yeah.
And so I said that felt like a good transition. And so I spent a couple of years on that, sort of got my feet, under me in the Valley. And then I got introduced to some Israeli entrepreneurs who had some seed funding, and I came in as the VP business development, and we were off to the races.
Yeah, yeah. And what was that kind of growth process like for you? Like as you were kind of in the early stages or kind of growing the business, how did you think about exits? Like, was this like a plan up front? Was this something that kind of evolved as the business started to grow? Like, how did you think about that next stage or that transaction?
Oh, great question. It was interesting to be on the company side as opposed to the acquirer. side. And it was funny. Yeah, one of a tough early lesson was the Israeli startup, loved the guys, super smart, engineers out of Technion and IDF. We had kind of an early browser chat technology, raised money from Bessemer, and had a lot going on, and had an opportunity to get acquired by this company Scopus at the time. There's been a bunch of consolidation. It was a public company, also run by an Israeli, and the founder, super nice guy, we're still friends. He was like, "No, I think we can make it bigger on our own." And and then it turned out we couldn't, and ended up having to sell for we kind of like a fraction of what the Scopus offer had been. And so that was just kind of an early lesson. It's like, greed and hunger and desire drives capitalism, right?
Yeah.
But there's also let's keep it real here. So, sometimes take the win. And I think especially for young entrepreneurs, they think they got to make $100 million on their first company. And that hardly ever happens. And a lot of times, boy, it's such a great option to sell to somebody bigger, get some money up front, have an earn out, and then you've got your exit, and you've got your ticket stamped. And you do that for a few years, and then you go off and do something else. Yeah. And that would have been a much better option than saying, no, we're going to do this on our own. Yeah. And then it kind of like dragged on for about 3.5 years before it got sold for scrap, which was a shame.
Kind of like a bunch of doubles is better than trying to get one grand slam home run.
Which is so hard, because in the Valley, right? I mean, a grand slam isn't 4 runs; it's like 400, and there's enough of those around, and enough Ferraris driving down Page Mill and whatnot, that people think that's what they got to do, and they got to do that in their first company. And, the truth is, I mean, there's some of those happen, but a lot of those people get their money by hustling, having a small, super motivated team, getting some product market fit, getting some traction, and learning some of the things about how to build and scale in that first company. Yeah. And then they sell, and there's a bunch that you can learn from being acquired by, Google or Meta or Salesforce about, I don't know, maybe this sounds bad, how the big boys do it.
Yeah. Well,
right?
what they're looking for. I mean, I always say, like, you have to think like a buyer, not a seller, right? You got to think, like, what do the buyers want to buy, right? And you need to design a product, and we need to create a company that is not only kind of, valued well, but is actually viable from, their corporate point of view.
Yeah, right. I mean, and it's hard to keep your feet on the ground. Like, right now I just read something about, with the AI stuff going, that like Meta's offering, for certain kinds of senior AI engineers, $100 million packages. And, and you kind of hear that, and even if you're in, I don't know, and if you're some sort of, measly mid-6-figure engineer who's doing great, you're like, why am I such a loser? And so there is a reality distortion thing that goes on that's hard. And the other thing is, it's also, things go in and out of favor. Like the last startup before I did coaching was a nutrient control system for indoor farming. There was all kinds of ag tech investment. There was all kinds of cannabis investment. We were just like hustling. We got product market fit. We got some initial customers. And then it turned out that, well, we missed the product market fit. And then ag tech has, radically contracted. Sort of the green, revolution of cannabis has left, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. And so you kind of got to, there's this weird work hard, do a good job, work to create long-term value, and also recognize when you have a tailwind.
Yeah. And how, I guess, how do you do that? Like how do you know if your success is driven by your, intelligence, luck, or just general tide being raised in the industry?
Well, there's a lot of smart people working on a lot of good ideas, and so there's always going to be competition. And the hard part, because I lived through the first .com bubble, right?
Mm-hmm.
With like the sock puppets were doing Super Bowl ads with no revenue, and Webvan raised $100 million and stuff. And from the inside, bubbles just seem like good times.
It's
and
a party.
it's yeah, right. I mean, and like even in ag tech, there's this very gifted storyteller was the founder of an ag tech company called Plenty, and they hired some good engineers, and then he talked to SoftBank, and SoftBank wrote him a really big check, and the instruction was, I think you need to spend money faster and be more crazy. And so to keep your moorings and actually know, kind of what's real and what's just hype, is a challenge. I mean, ultimately, you want to find a real pain point. You want to, get a good base of customers. You want to land and expand. You want to, drive revenue. And there's this balance. And I was actually talking to a guy I coach yesterday about how fast do they need to be growing. This company has been around, 5 or 6 years, 10, kind of 10 million in revenue. And he comes from a background, we should be doing like 200% growth, because he's coming from this SaaS background. And given where this market is, it's like, that's actually going to lead to some bad choices.
Yeah. Right.
And so this is one where, if they're doing 20 to 30% growth, if you do 30% growth over 3 years, you've more than doubled the business. And most of the time, that's going to be really good. And I think that's part of the thing is if, and then particularly if you could meet a customer need, solve problems, build a high-performing team, not get too much revenue concentration. Right? Like that's one of the biggest challenges. Oh, this customer loves us. Oh, they're half our revenue.
Yeah, exactly. Or worse.
Then that's not good. But yeah, then you can actually, and sometimes you have a tailwind, you just got to run like hell. And
just know you have a tailwind.
You got to do the blitz scaling. Like that happened at Blackhawk. We really hustled to get the first gift cards out in grocery stores. And we got some racks in, 2,000 Safeways, and it worked, and people liked it, and that was kind of a big discovery. And then we had triple-digit growth for the next 3 years, in grocery stores. Right? Because we went from just having racks at checkout to these portable racks to, and literally this is how the dynamic worked in grocery. It's like the battery and film people used to have a end cap. And we were kind of Silicon Valley predatory. It was like, oh, come on, just give it to us. We'll make a lot more money after it. And the poor film and battery people were like desperately fighting for their lives. Right, and we were kind of like
dog world.
Yeah, right. But it was dog eat dog world. So we, but that was an interesting one where we just really hit the product market fit, and the retailers loved it. The consumers who were given gift cards loved it. The people who were getting them loved it. It was like, okay, let's sign as many multi-year exclusive deals as we can and lock up the market. So by the time I left, we had 80% market share, in grocery, 100 multi-year exclusive deals. with category leading retailers, and it was sort of, it was game over. I mean, and
Yeah.
Blackhawk spun out, went public, was a unicorn. I mean, the business has evolved a lot since then, but it was, that was one where it was just like such a bell. It's like, okay, we got this. Let's run with it. I mean, and it's not that there weren't problems. We had a ton of problems, but they're kind of first world problems of how do we maintain this growth and treat our customers right and not confuse good fortune and timing with, that we're commercial geniuses. I mean, we worked hard, we were smart, and we had some good timing, but I think we always kept running scared.
Well, I think you've got to be a little scared. Like if you're not a little scared, then something's wrong. I mean, you're probably going to get blindsided.
Yeah, it's Andy Grove, from Intel's only the paranoid survive.
Yeah,
and and can you be paranoid and have a healthy, life, right? That's a whole different thing because we celebrate kind of these asymmetric, individuals who create gigantic fortunes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's like, the rock, the rock band that wants to dress like, I don't know, Metallica or the Rolling Stones, and they're really just sort of like garage tribute band people, but they want to have the affectations of the rock stars. And so sometimes I feel like people get caught in. It's like, I just got to work all the time because I know Elon Musk sleeps under his desk. Yeah. So if I sleep under my desk, then I'm going to be a billionaire too. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
No, unfortunately, it's not causal.
Yeah.
What I guess, how do you think about timing on some of these things? So in terms of when to kind of, drop the pedal and really grow, when to kind of keep it at 30-40%, right? Are there things that you're looking for, or things that you advise, or things that you've noticed that help kind of assess those things and make those decisions?
Yeah, so there are, and it's pretty rare, but there are just land grab. We got to go get as much of this sort of new territory as fast as we can. And that's rare, but you kind of recognize it when you have it. And those those are tough to sustain. But there's times when you just got to put the pedal to the floor and hold on tight. But that's pretty rare, and it usually doesn't last that long. I mean, truthfully, most. Yeah, even high growth tech companies in Silicon Valley, if you're over, 25, 30% a year, like you're doubling in 3 years. Yeah. And to build the systems and culture and processes that will sustain that is important. I mean, there's, any number. I mean, I think kind of a classic cautionary tale was, Zenefits. They were, moving fast and breaking things. And, it turned out there were some, you need to be, have a bunch of certifications and other things to be able to legally, offer the kinds of products that they did. And they were like, we'll catch up later. And it turned out, really valuable. But on the other hand, Uber and Lyft, Uber in particular, pushed things hard, right? So there's times when you're disrupting a market where the incumbents are going to try to hide behind regulations and political clout. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. It's a fine line, right? Like, I mean, even the Theranos story and stuff like that, right? It's like, you can see where it's like a couple of decisions left or right, and it could go either way. And it's tough to see the call in the moment. It's always easy to see the call retroactively, like looking back. But having to make those decisions is probably the hardest part of leadership.
Yeah, and maybe it's just because I've seen the flaming debris of things that didn't work out. I mean, and Elizabeth Holmes is just sort of like a notable thing, but there's lots of smaller time Series A, Series A founders, and right. I mean, and it does matter kind of who you get money from and what are their things, because and it's funny. I work with some guys who've started they're in their second fund, and their target is enterprise AI. A couple of Indian guys been very successful as entrepreneurs and home office or family office folks, and their target is and they want to do kind of seed to Series B, but they're looking for opportunities where they can have a nice exit between 100 and 400 million. Okay. And that's a different mindset than I need to have the 500 run grand slam. Yeah. And it kind of yeah, right. And as the entrepreneur, I mean, the company, it's amazing the difference between how venture investors think about things that fail and founders. Because I have yet to meet a founder who wasn't grievously psychologically wounded when their startup, failed. Yeah, it's traumatic. It's literally trauma. It's a very traumatic experience. Yeah. Whereas, the good venture folks are playing a portfolio game, and and they have a handful that they're like, okay, we're gonna really pour on the gasoline, do stuff. And of these 5, I don't know, 4 will probably fail, but we think one of them has a chance to have $1 billion exit. Yeah, and for everything else. Yeah, and so and when the other 4, I mean, it's not like not like they're indifferent to the suffering of the companies and the founders and the people who fail, but the way the dynamic of their industry, it's sort of like, well, this is they're ultimately not working for the entrepreneurs, they're working for the LPs. Well, I always say it's kind of a we eat our young kind of culture, right? And like the weak ones are not going to make it. We're going to consume like use the resources to plow towards something that does. Yeah, I mean, and the venture industry, itself, it's only been around for 50 years. I mean, it hasn't been around for for that long, and there are not very many companies that have really kind of stayed through and managed transitions well. I mean, Kleiner was the top of the game, and John Doerr's an incredibly successful investor. And John Doerr also kind of made a huge bet on sustainability. And maybe that was the right bet, but it was the wrong time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and right so that that fund lost, and Kleiner lost some of its luster, and that fund lost its shirt. I mean, and John Doerr is as good a venture. I mean, right? He's a billionaire because he made some really good, some really good calls. But it's very hard. I mean, and even like, what's the traditional style? How do funds transition? And so the funds themselves, really, they wrestle with staying lean and focused, and also having their money be the money that people take. Yeah. Right. Why should we take your money? And so you have, I know the guys at VC where the founders came from, Sequoia and Eckfeldt, super successful guys. They just wanted to focus on investing. And now they've got like $8 billion under management, and they've got, various investing partners and a talent partner and an operating partner and a go-to-market partner and all these, because they got to compete with Andreessen Horowitz, who has all this support. So it's kind of fascinating to see the rest of the world trying to catch up to, match, do the stuff that Silicon Valley does. And within Silicon Valley, it's absolutely ferociously, competitive, dog eat dog. And, right. I mean, it's an interesting thing. How, I guess, for founders that are kind of,
they've got product market fit, they're generating revenue, hopefully some profits, they see kind of, some future, right? They've got something.
Yeah.
When do you suggest they start thinking about exit strategy, or kind of either when they might exit, how they might exit, what do they need to do to kind of prepare for that exit? Like, when should that thinking start to hit them versus I'm just trying to survive, I'm trying to get this thing off the ground?
Well, I won't say from day one, but certainly from Series A.
Okay.
Yeah, the day that check comes in, and that's generally going to be, you're going to have a board, and you're going to need to, really think about it. Then I think, because it's not just you. Like, you've taken other people's money. You're on the back of the tiger, and you have to think about, how do you make sure that they get their return? It's not just, you and your employees feeding their families, solving a customer problem. It's like you've committed to a particular kind of enterprise, and I always encourage founders just look, just keep solve a customer pain point. Keep focusing on delivering value, and having employees who they don't have to be happy all the time, but they kind of need to love their work, right?
Okay.
There's this, they need to be engaged, and the one thing I say is like, build like you're going to stick, build the company like you're going to stick around, and run it in perpetuity. Build value, think like an owner, because the game of, we're going to pump it up, right, and do some stuff. That ends up being challenging. Whether it's tech entrepreneurs, or like, I work with a lot of what I'll call EBITDA companies, like SMB distribution companies, and a lot of them are looking for, what's the private equity play. Right. And so there start to be some different things that you shade if you're, maybe we don't do this expense and we do this thing.
Exactly.
And we hike this, right? And there's things you can do on the margin and I think it's in some ways easier to play that with the private equity thing, because they're so metric driven, exactly. Right? Yeah. And you don't have sort of the technology thing. And so those, I think it's the private equity people say what they're looking for. The entrepreneurs who are running the companies, or the owners, kind of know what it's going to look for. And it's right. And there's this
kind
middle.
Tune the business. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, we know you're tuning the business, and we're going to, it's
That's
this.
A game.
Right. There's all kinds of social games where both parties know what's going on.
Yeah, but are willing to do it anyway.
But they're willing to doing it, and it's caveat emptor. And I think you can do it a pretty logical way in for companies that are looking to sell to another private owner or private equity. The tech companies who've raised venture, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different beast, because they typically don't have as much control, right? Because that's a huge difference. So typical SMB is, primarily family, or sort of founder owned, and so they have significant control. Whereas once you take the money, they if you don't do,
well, you're on a clock. Once you take external money, you're on a clock for returning money.
Yes. You're on a clock, and it can work out really well. But and it's it's probably not a polite thing, but the venture but the venture folks is like, look, you don't do the job the way they want you to do the job, they're going to shoot you. Yeah. It's right. They're just
you kind of sign up for it if you're going to get into that game. That's that's not a surprise.
Yes, right. And they all say, we're founder friendly, and we're this, we're that. It's like, it's their, they are, they are working for their limited partners. They're looking for exits. And it creates weird distortions like the public markets, I mean, are on the one hand are hitting highs. I'm still a little confused by that, but but there haven't been really sort of the tech exits.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of created an interesting funding environment that a lot of things are like, a lot of entrepreneurs just like, oh my God, it's a terrible time. And, unless you are right in the sweet spot of AI and have, and then it's, well, the Wild West.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the Wild West with truly staggering amounts of capital. And I guess, and here's an interesting thing to me, to have it's only like, Chat GPT, I think it was Christmas, like 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Christmas 2023 that it came out, or 2022?
December of 23.
Yeah, right. It's not. It's and boy, people are still figuring out. There's an incredible amount of money being invested in it.
Now, do you think that's primarily because of the opportunity, or because they don't have anywhere to put some money, and so they're saying this is the only, like this is this supply driven, or is this?
I don't. Capital seeks return wherever wherever it can, and I think the scale of capital that's required to train the LLMs is pretty massive. And so, but it's funny, I'm kind of like reminded of the original telecom internet build out, right?
Yeah.
It's like all these companies, they're laying fiber and they're doing this and they're going to, and it was like overbuilt, and a lot of those companies lost their shirts, but the infrastructure turned out to be really robust for the internet, doing lots of internet interesting and useful things.
Yeah, enabled a whole bunch of industries or a whole bunch of
and so we're going to have all these incredible power hungry data centers with fantastic intelligence trying to get applied to a bunch of problems that we were never able to apply this kind of intelligence to. So I'm at heart, I'm a rational optimist. Like I think it was what the Anthropic CEO said, there's going to be, just a blood on the streets for white collar workers. Yeah, it's kind of like, well, he's a smart guy, and I think the technology is certainly going to be useful. But the thing that the people throughout history have, going back to Luddites and everything, it's like they can't predict or foresee the new jobs that don't exist yet that are going to emerge. Yeah. And be valuable things, for people to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we kind of over-index on our ability to predict exactly. It's going to be massive change, but probably not in the way we think. All right. It's probably going to be quite different ultimately than the way we perceive it right now.
Yeah, and I joke, having been on the wrong side of it, it's like, the creative destruction of capitalism always sounds better when it's happening to somebody else.
Yes.
Because I think it's just the law of averages most of the time. And I've had some good wins most of the time. I've been on the wrong side of that. But those couple of times I was on the right side of it, that was pretty fun, and that's where you get
the best batters are 350, right? Like it's like they strike out more than they hit.
Oh, so. Yeah, right. And especially and if you're selling stuff, the best batters, right? Like hit fail 7 out of 10 times, and you're in the Hall of Fame. I think if you're selling new stuff, if you hit 1 out of 10, if you get 9 no's for every yes, you're probably going to the sales. Sales, / startup, founder Hall of Fame.
Let's talk a little bit about mistakes you've seen founders make kind of earlier that make exits more difficult, whether it's kind of, with the business and strategy, or whether it's in kind of internal operations, or like as you're working with some of these companies who, are probably going to have some kind of transaction at some point here, right? Maybe not, a unicorn exit, but, are going to scale a couple of times and then, do either a private equity or a strategic sale. what are some of the things that, trip them up in the selling process, either hurt valuation or make the buying process more complicated or kind of cause them to run through more kind of potential buyers that if they could have, just been a little smarter earlier, would have avoided some of these things? Or anything come to mind or anything that advice you'd give?
Oh God, the list is so long, but
Top three.
yeah. So like the number one thing, to be honest, is hubris.
Yeah.
Right. Just the people start to think that they got all the answers, they got all that, and they become too confident of their own infallibility, and they need to have confidence but not hubris. And there's a balance. So that's the number one thing is to have people who you trust who will keep you honest. I mean, that's one of the things and sometimes it can be a board member or you can have a co-founder. A lot of times, there's great business for coaches because it's nice to have, an external person to keep you honest and as we keep you from sucking your own exhaust. Yep. So that's my number one thing. Don't suck your own exhaust. And I guess number two, and this is kind of related, is like don't get carried away on hiring as fast as you can. Because one of the things that can happen is people lower standards because they feel like they got to grow fast, and you get a couple of things, because A players like to be around A players. You should always, in any company, you should aspire to build a team of all-stars.
Yep.
I mean, right? Doesn't need to be family. Team all-stars. We want A players here, and we want them to be the very best at what they do. Yep. And I think people lose that, focus in the
pressure to grow kind of situation.
In the pressure to grow, and then it creates bad cultural things because you're just growing. And so that would be my thing is make sure that you continue to hire A players and focus relentlessly on having a great culture, because those two will reinforce things. And then the third is, I guess I'll do as third. Third is to avoid the shiny penny. And to me, and this was one of the most useful things I did at Blackhawk. Was I was fortunate to sort of like be running with this gift card thing that just was like a house on fire. And the guy who was the founder of Blackhawk, really gifted entrepreneur named Don Kingsborough. Hi, Don, if you see this. And Don had this mad creative genius thing where he could see opportunities, and he'd say, it's like, well, Thomas Edison had a lot of ideas and almost all of them were bad, but enough of the good ones. And there's a point when you're just trying stuff and throwing things against the wall that works. But there's also a period where you have to be disciplined about your execution and not spread yourself too thin. And I think that's something that a lot of founders get pulled into, because when they start to have a hot hand, other opportunities come in. Oh, you can do this acquisition. Oh, you can go into this new market. And so I think,
classic.
Yes, not being so dazzled by your success. You've got your really good product that's growing, and you need to keep, your foot on the gas, but that doesn't mean that these different ancillary things that people are trying to talk to you. I'm forever dealing with, entrepreneurs who are smart and also clever deal makers. And they're like, oh, we're going to have this deal and we're going to do this and they're going to pay us this much money. And we don't have to do that much. It's like, yeah, but you're distracting your effort from the core. And I think that's kind of the number one thing. When I say sort of avoid the shiny penny is, because I would argue there's usually more to be gained by building out the good foundational idea than there is by trying new kind of tangentially related things. So those would be my three. Was that three?
I like them. Yep. No, that was great. The last question I have is, what have you seen kind of challenges post exit, right? Like after you do a deal, or after you see an entrepreneur, or kind of your own experiences, after a deal, like what have been some of the challenges you've seen, personally, professionally, people go through post exit?
Well, I'll just say some of the most unhappy people I know are exited founders with more money than they can spend.
Yeah.
And the reason, there's a couple of reasons. One, they just lose their purpose. I mean, it's enormously empowering to have this purpose and drive and team to be working all together. Yeah. And then whether it's a 10 million or 20 million or 100 million, whatever the number is. Yeah. And then sort of people get that, and then they're sitting in their let's just say their nice house in Atherton or, wherever. And they're kind of like, what do I do with myself? And a lot of them just, behave like destructive puppies. I mean, they have affairs, they crash cars, they go on,
get into substances.
They do too many drugs. The one I think is challenging, and I apologize in advance to all the golfers out there, but the ones who join the club and they just go to the club and they play golf like 4 or 5 days a week, and they get too much sun, and they put on 30 pounds, and it's just like a velvet coffin. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so I think the biggest challenge is not having thought through what they want to do, and mistakenly thinking that if they have no financial worries, they'll be happy all the time. Because happiness is just a byproduct of living a purposeful life. Yeah. And a lot of people with money really struggle to do that.
Yeah, exactly. With that, I think we'll end there. Walter, it's been a pleasure. This has been a really great conversation. I appreciate it. If people want to get more information on you, learn about what you're doing, what's the best way to get that?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can email me, walter.paulson@vistagechair.com. And do we have show notes?
Yep. Yeah, I'll put some show notes.
So we'll put my contact information in the show notes. Yep. So if you're a CEO who wants help being your best self, and particularly if you want to accelerate sales growth, I love helping CEOs thrive and succeed.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure all the links are there, and I would encourage anyone listening to contact Walter and learn some more. So, Walter, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.